Illustration rare Pokemon cards from the Scarlet and Violet era are really attaining some crazy high values, and they're not the rarest cards that you can pull. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. You're watching the channel Dr. Applesauce 2. My name's Will. It's another beautiful day here in Texas. I hope you guys know that I love you, God loves you, that there's an awesome plan for your life. Today, I want to talk about illustration rares. Not special illustration rares, or they're called art rares in the Japanese version of the Scarlet and Violet Pokemon card era block. There's some really interesting things going on with illustration rares, and I'm not the first person to mention this, and this is something that we have been seeing for a while, but illustration rares are not the highest rarity of pulls from the Scarlet and Violet era. That would be a special illustration rare. So you could probably think, if you're newer, you could think of a special illustration rare kind of as an alternate art, kind of, sorta. And an illustration rare is what basically used to be the trainer gallery, or back in the Sun and Moon era would be character cards, full art cards that aren't textured. And some interesting things are happening in the Scarlet and Violet era. Some of these illustration rares are worth a lot of money. Some of them are worth a lot more than a lot of the special illustration rares, which are the textured alternate art style types of cards. And honestly, I think one of them is the second most expensive card in the entire Scarlet and Violet era block. It's very interesting. Before we jump into it, I want you to let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about illustration rares? Give me your opinions in the comments below. Let's jump over here and look right here. First one we're going to look at is the Raichu illustration rare from Paldea Evolved. This one's gorgeous. You got Raichu laying on a bed, taking a nap. I mean, it's the evolved form of Pikachu. Wonderful card, right? So let's look at Raichu right here. It has a market value currently for an illustration rare, a market value of $43. I'm sorry, $42 with a listed median price of $43. And if we actually look, if we look back about a 6-month block so far, you see that, and this is something I want to look at too, it doesn't look like crazy things are happening because we're just seeing pretty consistent upward trends on some of these more valuable illustration rare Pokemon cards. So we look at the Raichu back in January, it was worth what, about 17 bucks, and just a slow constant increase, and now we're up to around $40 for this card. That's not even one of the highest rarities, and it's a really beautiful card. So Alolan Raichu, or not Alolan, it looks like the Alolan Raichu with kind of the shadow that's on it, but Raichu, right? So we got Raichu. Next up, we're going to go to Groudon from Paradox Rift. This is one that a lot of people are excited for. I think I had a PSA 10 version of this at one point. Maybe it was in Japanese, I can't remember. But we got the Groudon from Paradox Rift. We can see that the Groudon has a market price of about $52 right now. Pretty significant price for a card that's not the highest rarity pull from the set. It's not a special illustration rare, it's just an illustration rare. And we can see if we look at our 6-month pricing history, started off around 25 bucks with a pretty steady increase, and it had a spike up to about 65, and it's come down and leveled out a little bit to around $50 now. And I'm just going over a few of these that are the highest to show kind of the trends and to see, in my opinion, I'm not seeing anything weird, but we're going to talk about that here in a second. Okay? Next up, this one is brand freaking new, the Eevee from Twilight Masquerade. Now, honestly, not super surprised about this one. The pricing on it is a little insane. I literally saw somebody on Facebook yesterday listing one for like $90. But we've got Eevee. Not surprised at how popular this one is. Eevee is, besides Pikachu and, Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle, Eevee's probably one of the top 5 most popular Pokemon ever, I would think. But we've got a whole bunch of Eevee chilling here on this couch. And it has a market price of $60. And this is a card that's been out for a little over a month-ish, maybe around 2 months. And we can see right here, it started around 25, trending up to now it's around 60 bucks. Now, this is the big boy illustration rare of the set, of the block. And part of me wonders if the Magikarp's success has anything to do with the rise of the rest of the illustration rares, because the Magikarp was from Paldea Evolved. So the second set in the Scarlet and Violet era block, and this Magikarp has a market value of $126, and it has just been constantly on the rise. We can see the 6-month snapshot right here. If we go to the year-long snapshot from July of 2023, started off about 50 bucks, and then just constantly trending upwards. Now, this Magikarp is a beautiful card. Shinji Kanda is the illustrator on this card, and Shinji Kanda is great. Shinji Kanda also did the the alternate art Giratina from Lost Origin and Lost Abyss. So I think that kind of helped with the success of the Magikarp, so it made it a very beautiful card. But $126 market value, and I believe that this Magikarp is one of, maybe it might be the second most expensive card in the Scarlet and Violet era block. It's one of the most expensive cards in the Scarlet and Violet era block for an illustration rare. Not even the highest rarity card. So let's take a jump over here and let's look at some of this right here. So we can see here is a list of a bunch of the highest valued illustration rares from the Scarlet and Violet era block, okay? So we've got the Magikarp, we got the Eevee, 126.60, we got the Groudon, 50, we got the Raichu at 41, we got this Tyranitar right here at 30, $29 for the Charmander, $27 for the Ghastly, which that Ghastly is awesome, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Charmeleon. I mean, but the list goes on, right? So here's just a little bit of a list, and I want to, why are these so expensive compared to, you know, the other cards? So if we go over and look at some of the special illustration rares, which is the highest rarity, the highest tiered rarity in the Scarlet and Violet block, we've got the Greninja, that's $200, and then we have the Charizard EX from Paldean Fates, which is 116, the Charizard EX from 151, which is 116, the Mew EX, a special illustration rare, that's 84, and then we go into the Raging Bolt, and then so something I want you guys to look at. I'll go back and forth between screens, but look at this screen of special illustration rares, right? They're beautiful cards. The artwork on them is very intricate and very, very nice and very, very good. But look at the special illustration rares, okay? And then let's flip over to the illustration rares and look at the art of these cards. Again, very nice, very beautiful. One of the reasons I think we're seeing a big disparity here between these two types of cards, with the illustration rare and then back over to the special illustration rare. So if you look at the special illustration rares, they look great. And then you look at the illustration rares, they look great as well. But the special illustration rares are a little bit busy. Now, don't hear what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the special illustration rare artworks are not good. That's not what I'm saying at all. But they are quite busy. When we go back to the Sword and Shield era and we look at the Sword and Shield alternate arts, not all of the alternate arts were necessarily super busy with a lot going on. They just were really cool, full art, beautiful alternate art versions of the cards. We're getting into the Scarlet and Violet block, and the special illustration rares are great, and I personally do like them, but the special illustration rare artwork is busy. There's a lot to it. It's different. You either love it or you hate it, and there's a lot of people out there that aren't absolutely crazy about it. If we go and we look at the illustration rare artworks, the illustration rare artworks are a little bit cleaner, a little bit simpler in some situations. If we're talking about the Magikarp, that's not exactly simple. It's very, very busy. But if we look at some of the others, it is quite simple. They are a little bit easier to look at, a little bit more aesthetically pleasing than the special illustration rares. And we're getting illustration rares of a bunch of beloved Pokemon, a bunch of Pokemon that are really, really popular that we're not getting special illustration rares of. By the way, if I have mixed up illustration rare and special illustration rare in my terminology in this video, I would not be surprised. How many times can you say illustration rare and special illustration rare before your tongue gets tied? You let me know. So if I've mixed it up, you guys can troll me in the comments. But I think illustration rares are just a little bit more palatable aesthetically for people than the special illustration rares. And plus, we're getting Magikarp is beloved, Eevee's beloved, Raichu's beloved. We're not getting these cards in the special illustration rare format. We're getting a lot of special illustration rares of new gen Pokemon. So I think that's part of why some of these illustration rares are so expensive and pulling so much value. Another reason why is they're hard to pull. Now, pulling an illustration rare in and of itself isn't hard. It's easier to pull an illustration rare than it is to pull a special illustration rare. But to pull the specific illustration rare that you want is quite difficult to pull, because if a set has a pool of 10 illustration rares, but you really only want one, well, the odds of pulling an illustration rare have just been compounded by 10 because you want that specific one to hit. So getting the specific illustration rare that you want is quite difficult to pull, as opposed to just buying it. And then I think another flip side of it is some of these illustration rares, because they have this flat, this very flat, clean artwork, there's no texturing or anything, imperfections and print lines are really, really, really visible on those cards, making them harder to grade. And also, I think that they're just the simplicity of some of the illustration rares, the lack of huge textures, the lack of so much busyness that are in the special illustration rares, make the illustration rares kind of nostalgic and have some of us older people harken back to the simpler times of the more cool, simple, nostalgic vintage artworks. I think that's why 151 was so insanely popular, because it really hit that nail on the head. You look at the Raichu, you look at the Eevee, you look at the Groudon. Those are cool cards that aren't too incredibly busy, but you can kind of envision them with just a little frame on them and then the old school yellow borders and text on them. So all of those things combined, I believe is helping us to see these values on illustration rares really, really spike, and then obviously they're very, very popular. And I find it really interesting because you have a lot of illustration rares that are worth a lot more money than some of the special illustration rares out there. So it's really cool. I personally enjoy the illustration rares a lot. I wouldn't say I enjoy all of them more than all of the special illustration rares, but some of the special illustration rares are crazy. That Greninja EX that's worth, what, $200? Is a crazy looking card. It's cool, don't get me wrong, but it is crazy and wild. It's like a modern, surrealistic piece of art, whereas I could just go and, grab myself that cool Alolan Raichu, and it's simple, it's peaceful, it looks great, it's clean. So that's the phenomenon going on with the Scarlet and Violet era block. We've got illustration rares that are really, really, really gaining some value, and I think it's pretty cool. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you like the illustration rares, or do you prefer the special illustration rares? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, huge favor, give it a thumbs up. It's free, and you can subscribe, hit those notification bells. All that's free, and it's a great way for you to support me and the channel for no money at all. And if you liked this one, check that video out too. And like I always say, find somebody to love and serve today. Be the change you want to see in the world. See you next time.